So, hello, Yamuna. Thank you very much for
Hi.
accepting my invitation to host you today for this project of Translocal Expat Network, however we would call it. And thank you for the time difference toleration. I'm talking to you from Germany, and you are currently in the US. In which state are you?
Yes. I'm in Houston, Texas. This should be in English, right? I forgot to ask that one question. You prefer
It
that in
should be, yes.
English, right? Okay.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
have preferred actually to make it in Arabic because both of us are Egyptians. But then through the interviews,
Or
I have
other,
to,
yeah.
yeah, I have other nationalities who would not really be able to speak Arabic, unfortunately, and then also not they're German. So the most international would be Arabic, even though I would have prepared for everyone to speak his native language because I'm 100% pro. That it comes with a different personality.
True. True. That's true. Yeah. Um, I'm happy. I'm here with you. I hope like that will help someone on their journey or something. I'm here. Hi from Houston, Texas. It's 12:30 p.m. So middle day, lunch break. Uh, been here in the US for 10 years now. So yeah, let's start.
So maybe you can brief us shortly. Did you move to the US for work or study, or how did it start?
So I moved here to get my master's. I have my undergrad in construction management from Ain Shams, Cairo, Egypt. I came here to Indianapolis, Purdue to get my master in construction management. That was 2013 to 2015, then moved to Connecticut for work and then Houston for work. And I'm here right now, settling, hopefully keep it that way for a couple more years. But yeah, yep. So almost 10 years now.
Awesome. And the most important question that I would ask you, if I was now moving from Egypt to the US or like restarting your journey, what would have been the most important information that you would have maybe appreciated to know before moving to the US?
Um, Personally, I think a lot of information you will find depending on what you're coming for is like if you're coming for work, probably they will send you all kind of things of what to do, where to find housing and those kind of stuff. Similar if you're F1 student or if you're a student, even if you're coming just to explore, you'll find a big community to help you with those stuff. But the major thing that nobody talked to me about, which was like really confusing, is our communication issues. When I say our, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but that was a big thing to me. Like I came here and people are talking about culture shock, which wasn't really true. Like we watch all those American movies, we know a lot about the culture to start with. And a lot of it is true. Like you understand where people come from. Like you meet tourists, tourists in Egypt, and you understand them. You know where they are partially coming from, but it's so hard to communicate with them. Where are you coming from, or what you're trying to say, or like how to elaborate on an idea, or how to explain yourself, or explain your need, or like we don't. Nobody teaches you that you need to ask for help. Like we think we should take everything on ourselves, like or when to ask for help, or like how like to choose the correct time to find the resource. Like we're so shy and a little bit like take it in on yourself kind of people, which is not like necessarily true. Like it never hurt to ask. It sometimes hurt to ask the question, but most of the time it's not. Like in I had to learn this and nobody ever talks about it. Like this major thing of like, oh, like you should talk less, you're like if you're smart enough you shouldn't ask this question. No, ask the question. Like here, like the contrary is like they always like, oh, there's not, like if you ever go to ask a question and say like I have a stupid question, that the thing they respond with is like there's nothing called stupid question. Like no question is stupid. So in this one thing, it's either like in work or like if you're studying or like if you need help or you're asking about something, like ask like what is the worst that could happen? Someone will tell you no, that's fine. Just take the no and leave. Like ask someone else. It's not a big deal. And also like it's not only just asking the question, it's also like how we elaborate or trying to explain where we're coming from. Like they don't know you. Like you know a lot about them from movies or this or that. They don't know that about you. You're like probably for most of them a brand new thing. They don't watch Egyptian movies. They don't like not a lot of them have traveled. All they might know is pyramids, which makes sense. Like why else would they learn like that? Or what else would they learn? We learn about that because they are progressive. They have all like kind of innovations and stuff like that. But why would they learn about like what do we provide? So they have to learn our culture. So you have to learn to explain to them where you're coming from. And also like, why are you explaining this? Like this balance between what you need to say and when and where. I think that's one of the biggest things that I had to learn through those 10 years. And when you have to stand up for yourself and when you have to set limits and what are those limits and what those limits are to you and to yourself to start with. I think also one thing, but I have been told that is like one big thing is one of my friends told me like try to learn the best of like, yes, take what's good from back home, but learn the good things they do there, right? And take that and take ownership of it and make it your own. So that's another thing I think is really important. And I'm glad someone told me that. That helped a lot. And also the focus. That one advice I got to before I came here, and I have a lot of people keep reminding me of it and help me keep going. Because like, why did you come to start with? Like you came to study, you came to work, you came for better opportunity. And as long as you keep your goal in front of you, you don't get lost. Like when things get hard, it's like, oh, I'm gonna focus on my goal, and it gets you back on track. Yeah, but that's majorly it.
Well, I think communication is key. And yeah, definitely put it in the right context. Like I've been holding these interviews with different people from different backgrounds, and yeah, it has been stated in different words, but you're totally right. Um, yeah, and coming from a different culture, it is more necessary to know more about the culture that we are going to. And I remember I have a scholarship in 2012 from Koch, and I traveled to the US to study business over there. And even though I've traveled to several countries all over the world, I was never prepared to visit the US. Um, sorry, I was never prepared to visit somewhere else except like in the US embassy. I was invited to this cultural sensitivity and preparation course, which I really appreciated back then very much. But now, 10 years later, when you started talking about it, it popped into my head that oh yeah, I had this thing as well, and they were kind of like highlighting this, please, when you're traveling to the US, please mind the cultural difference. They were not preparing us as much for the student activity, for the studies, for everything, but they were focusing so much on this kind of cultural aspect, communication aspect, what kind of like communication should we take care of, because it would give a different sign, it would give a different meaning and all of that. Yeah, and I would definitely should have set more focus on that during my journey, and thank you for highlighting this now. And yeah, I'm living in Germany, and I have always associated this kind of communication problems also with the language barrier, but now talking to you, where you're living also in an English speaking country, even though that we speak English in our
English.
schools in Egypt, it's a different English, it's a different language, and it's a different cultural meanings associated to every word that we say. Especially, yeah, we watch Hollywood movies, but it's not really the only way that get us access to the cultural of the American
Yep.
society, as much as the Egyptian movies does not represent our society.
Yeah.
Fully,
Sure.
I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
Sure.
um, how do you think that you've developed your social network to support you on that matter? Because language in comparison to Germany has been a problem. How is the social network strategy to get more engaged in your community was then?
Honestly, you made a good point when you said like, yeah, we learn English, we speak good English, and even when you come here, they tell you no, good, your English is good, but you still like, again, there is a little bit of language barrier still, like even though you speak English, and that gets away when you like start communicating with like Americans, right? And I think more practice help you more. And again, like when you ask questions, like till today, like I have been living here for 10 years and I work, and as you said, like we studied that in English, but it's still like get like a phrase or something that I don't understand. I'm never afraid to ask, like, what did this mean? And they're like, well, Americans are really sweet that they don't pick on you. They actually like, if they understand that this is not your, like this is not where you grow up, so they go slowly and explain it to you, what does this mean, and they don't get offended or anything, which is great, honestly. I think like you have to open your heart. You decided to come to a different country, you have to believe in your heart and open your heart to like new people, new experiences. Don't live in a bubble. Don't just have your social network Egyptians and they are like same mentality. You have to open your heart and mind to everything, to everyone, and talk. Like it was most but my best time in the US was in school because we get exposure to all people from all over the world. My industry is it's still diverse, but not as diverse. Where I'm like, and when you get professional, it's not as easy to be relaxed and laid back, because professional environment is different when you try to communicate or ask questions or like talk freely about culture. So I think we have to come here or like wherever we go with an open heart, open mind to like accept people. And accepting doesn't mean that we take what they do and do it. Accepting is like, I'm okay with what you like. They have a saying here is like, you do you, like let you be you and I will be me. That's fine. That's totally okay. It doesn't mean that I'm okay with you, that I will do the same thing. So I think when you get there, this is when you get to know people better and focus on similarities. Don't focus on differences, right? So you find someone that will, like, let's say they are studying with you. So to start with, like if you sit down, you'll find at least 10 things in common between you. So talk about those 10 things. Don't go find a million other things that is different between you and just try to like poke the point and just steer the pot, as they say, and talk about those other million things. No, like if you want to have a good network with people, talk about like the similarities. If your co-workers, talk about like start with work, start with where they live, what they like, you know, like small talks, and then you will get to like bigger talks and, oh, we do this, we do that, how about this? And I think also like we come here all like a little bit tense because of like homesickness and stuff like that, and sometimes we're a little bit sensitive. I'm not saying be like or let people offend you or anything, but try to take things lightly, more lightly. And if something like really offended you, just don't attack people. It's just like just step back, stay calm, and just don't comment or just don't laugh at it, and it will go away. Like people are really respectful everywhere. So that's basically what expand your like network is, basically being open. But again, I mean, nothing like home and in your support system, your family, your friends that you grew up with. You make new friends, yes, and they become your new family, but nothing will ever replace like your actual family and the people, because you add years in time to the people you already know from growing up, but the new people you knew might maybe you know them for like 2-3 years or like even 10 years. I mean, I have some friends since I came here, so I know them for 10 years and they are family to me, but still like home is home. And when things get harder, sometimes you're like homesick or you need your like closer people. And again, like life here is faster faster paced. So sometimes when things get hard, it's just harder to get through things because people are busier here than back home. So I'm not sure if that answered your question. Sorry.
It did. It did. No, it did. Thank you for elaborating and enriching the answer as much as you can. I feel also that you're speaking from your heart.
Yeah.
And I feel it as
yeah.
well.
Yeah. Hopefully that's helpful, not like too emotional or anything.
No, it is very helpful. And I mean, like, this is about, it's not an official professional or anything. I just post our talks just like as raw as possible. And I don't want it to be like made up in a way or another. It's just like a heart to heart talk, like friends, like we're friends and we went to the same university. And that's how I started this conversation. It was just like among my friends. And I realized that after 10 years, I also like, I miss my friends back home. I can relate them at some point, yes. And I miss my family. And, at some point, as you were just mentioning before our recording, like some things change, but yeah, we meet different people across the world and we can relate more to these people or they can relate more to us. But still, like part of us is always homesick because these are the people who grew up with us, who will feel like most relaxed and chilled where. And yeah, so it is true and authentic. So thank you for sharing this real conversation. And yeah, you shared some of the challenges or we're talking so far about the challenges that we face sometimes. And but how about the qualities, what were the best moments that you lived in the US since you moved there? Like why would be someone more excited? What do you think you would advise somebody to go there if he's seeking something specifically that you had a quality of?
I think quality of education, life quality is way better. I mean, again, I still think that we have communication issues that they don't have. Like they speak freely, they speak openly, they speak their hearts, as you said. I think that's a big thing. Like in general, like the payoff, like the hard work payoff here more than it does back home. Yes, work, school. It's easier to afford it here than back home. Like if you really work, really like you do your part, you get awarded for it. So all of that is, I think, worth it. Yeah, they call it land of opportunities, which I can totally agree with. Like the opportunities are big here. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. And would you remember one or two moments that you were super grateful that you are in the US?
I would say the recent hike in prices of usual was like, whoa, that's whoa, yeah, I'm happy I'm here. I mean, we have inflation too, but still, life is affordable. It's getting harder, but at least at the end of the day, you're able to still afford it. There are a couple moments. I mean, when I graduated my master's, that was a big one. Like my first job. Where like I don't know, like even the small successes were like make me feel like, oh, I achieved something. In people make sure that they acknowledge your achievements, and like if you're happy about something, feel like, oh, everybody's happy for me, that's good. So yeah, couple things I have achieved at work or like personal life and stuff like that, I was really happy about that. Feel like, oh, I did that, good for me. But yeah.
And going back in time, would you have made the same decision that you made, like moving to the US
Oh
for
yeah.
study or staying there?
Yeah, for sure. I would. I mean, it breaks my heart now. My parents are older, and it's hard, and I need their support. And I feel bad I'm not there, and not only my parents but also my friends. Like I'm not there, and like life-changing moments and stuff like that. But like here, life. I'm not gonna say it's easy, but it is easier. Like you work and you get rewarded, and you see better opportunities, better education for my kid, quality of life is better. So yeah, I would do it all over again. Yeah, definitely. I'm still sometimes thinking, oh, would I ever go back settled to be close to family? And I mean, my parents have my siblings, but sometimes I feel I want to be there. But I don't know if I will go back or not, but I would definitely at least come here, do my master's and work and get the experience of the checklist. Definitely again.
I can totally understand. I can also totally relate to your experience. Like I've always thought, sometimes I was questioning, like, why have I done that to myself when things get harder? And then I was like, okay, but I've changed a lot. I've learned a lot. I'm grateful for where I am. Sometimes I have challenges here in Germany and I feel like, oh, I want to go back, but then they are having different challenges and I'm grateful for where I am. And I would re-choose it if I had the opportunity. But Mona, how do you think your experience in the US and the travel and study abroad and working in a different work culture, having a different system, everything is different, and trying to understand the whole situation again changed you? Like I have met you last
Oh,
time face to face 10 years ago, maybe, or something as we I hope
yes.
I think maybe so.
Yeah, it was before I came here because you talked about your training in Coca-Cola. I think you were in Indiana too, and we were talking because I was coming to Indiana, and we talked a little bit about it and asked you questions, and they helped me about the weather and how it was true. But yeah, I mean, I changed a lot in a lot of perspective, and who I am today is completely different from who I am the last time we actually saw each other, which, as you said, I'm grateful for. There are some things that sometimes I wish they were better, like with diversity or like pressure, like homesickness or stuff like that. But I'm definitely stronger. I'm definitely more capable of facing life frustrations. I have broader vision, or I have more communication skills than I ever had. Like when I went back home this year, like we're on a trip and a cruise. I remember we went on that cruise like 5 or 6 times before. The most conversation I would have with a tourist wouldn't be more than 10-15 minutes. This time we're hanging out with those group. It's diverse from Belgium, from Ukraine, India, and I can see how much different now that I can communicate with those people, because I got exposure here to communicate with people from any background, like people in the US. Like everyone comes to the US, you get exposure to talk to people and communicate with different people, and now I can communicate more. We spend the whole 5 days with them, go out with them, go to the visits with them as a group, like we created a connection, right? So a lot of other aspects, and some stuff might slip my mind too, but definitely worth it. I don't know if it's a part of growing up or but I would say like a big part of it was travel too. When you have to face those things alone and make your own decisions and stuff like that, changes you. It's different than having people like convincing you to do something, even like as an advice. Like I've never was really told what to do, but like you don't even have the advice. You have to figure it out your own and take your own decisions. So that changes you a lot, I think.
Well, yeah, and making your own decisions. I can now. I wanted to ask you. You mentioned in between that you have a kid.
Yep.
So so I think that's double responsibility. Sometimes in Egypt, like I think I'm not married. I don't have a family yet, so I have responsibility of myself, and I have more freedom to now decide. I pack my stuff and I go back to Egypt. So I don't really have the responsibility. Someone else's life is attached to me. So as a mom in the US, you're doing a great job because you have
Thank you.
more responsibility. It's somehow also more of a company that's giving more
Yeah,
sense to
true.
your life. It's also
Yeah.
beautiful because you see the sense of achievement on a personal level, not only on the career level.
Sure.
But I think putting myself in your place, I would have more responsibility, taking care of myself, taking care of my child, making sure of his well-being, understanding a different system of education in the US.
Yeah,
First
true.
of all, how do you get these information? Do you like for instance in Germany, there is some midwife that would educate the mom before her birth, for 1 year before getting the birth, and then she would accompany her after the. Oh yeah, yes,
Very
she would.
interesting.
Yes, she would accompany her after the birth, and not the doctor, not the gynecologist. But yeah, because there are also these courses for the couples before getting a birth, so that the parent, like the father, would also know how to deal with his kid and everything. So how is that process in the US? And also in Egypt, you have this social network, like your mom, your extended family, and everyone who comes take the child. Meanwhile, you go to the coiffeur or do something. You don't really have that in the US, or you can get a maid, which is very expensive outside Egypt. So how are you dealing with that now that you are your social support system and that? How is your experience on that matter?
So honestly, like along the pregnancy, yes, you have the doctor, you have that resource. You get like apps and stuff like that. You get to go like it's not like Germany. You have to figure out some stuff on yourself. Like they give you a book to read about pregnancy. They advise you about like if you have questions, and then the pediatrician does whatever after like you give birth. They go through with things like with you, and they do like the checks on like how the baby's developing physically and mentally both, and you do readings and you try to find like mommy friends and stuff like that. You touched on a lot of important points that we're navigating. I didn't study here, so I don't know the system, as you said, and you have to navigate and make choices. And either you're gonna like we decided to send Yusuf to Islamic school just for elementary to make sure that he gets that sense of like that he's Muslim and it's okay. Houston is really diverse. Like even if he went to public school, he will get exposure to Muslims. Probably he will have some Arabs in his classroom, at least one or two. Like even if you're in a not really that diverse neighborhood, you still get Arabs and Muslims definitely. But we decided that for elementary at least, and then we'll switch him in middle school. But yeah, you get a lot of challenges. But I would say at the end of the day, yes, you don't get that luxury of having mom and you leave your kid to go get like self-care, do something for yourself as you do. You can get a babysitter, yes, but you need to find someone that you would trust to leave your kid in your house with for a couple hours or whatever. Um, um, his dad and I are divorced, so but he helps. He takes him like couple weekends, so I get to go get some stuff. But still, it's a lot of work to be single mom with a full-time job, and you're the provider, and you have to take care of that. But it's easier in other aspects. Like school system here is way easier. Like I hear about those interviews back home, like I'm glad I don't have to deal with that, right? And still, he gets great education and good schools, and he'll go to great hopefully finger crossed college education.
Yeah.
But so there are positives and negatives. It depends. Like it's not a balanced thing, but you have to look at the end of the day, you have to look at the positives. And honestly, it's sometimes I'm like, it's better to be away from grandparents because they spoil them. Too much. He went back home for 3 weeks. He came back spoiled little brat that you have to start setting limits again. And it's like, oh, those are the rules. We have to go through them a couple more times. Like we spent 3 weeks. We had to stay a month and a half on routine to get like to convince him to get back to the routine. But it's a process. But honestly, again, like a big part of me doesn't want to go back home because it's better for Yusuf to stay here. Education, like he has opportunities of like what here in Houston, he loves space. NASA's like 30 minutes away from where we live. He goes there for
Wow.
summer camps. like you have more options, and it's affordable here. Like you might have stuff back home, but it's really expensive to have a. I mean, it's still expensive here to have a kid, but it's like you still can do it and give him good education, give him like find leisure things for him to do, taking him to practices and all of that. So in the only different challenge is like he's not in your culture, but again, it's like you don't wanna, and we always really always talking about it is like you don't wanna put him just with Arabs and Muslim and bubble him, because this is why we came here to start with. We want it to expand, but at the same time, you're like, as you said, like when it's not you, you're like, but I'm really scared that this kid will like get messed up. And it just like, and even like raising them up, it's just like it's with discipline. Even it just like sometimes it's hard. It's like, oh my God, like am I doing a good job? Am I like being too strict? Am I being too loose? It's just like always those questions. But yeah, moms, I came to a conclusion like, yeah, there will be a good day, there will be bad days, but I'm doing my best. So
That's
yeah.
the most important thing, that you find the peace with yourself, that you cannot really know it all, you cannot really control it all. And I know moms always have the tendency to like guilt themselves, like, yeah, I'm not doing the best I can as a mom. And yeah, and really, it's really hard. I can totally understand that. But yeah, it's really interesting that you find yourself the good position where you can say, okay, that's my best and I cannot control it. Some days it will be good, some days it's bad, and that's life, and we're not
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
But did you create somehow, I'm curious to ask this, did you create your own upbringing or like your methodology for raising your child? Because now you're saying, okay, when he goes back to their grandparents, they're spoiling him. And we, generation, is raised in a different time, different principles, different influence or factors, I would say. And today there are a lot of new ideas, new positive psychology, new positive theories for raising children. How did you find your in between, like? And also you were raised in Egypt, and now you're raising a child in the middle of a new community in a different culture. You're putting him in an Islamic school to get somehow contact with his background. I don't know how it is in the US, but in Germany, Arabic is not officially taught in any school, not that I know of. So children have to study Arabic or religion on the side privately or something, except for a couple of schools, maybe in Berlin. I'm not sure, but it. Can you give us more of an insight? How is that for you? How did you find your position raising your
So
kid?
discipline wise, I would say books. I read a lot of books, and you have to think about what you read. So you're talking about positive discipline. I have a strong character kid. He's really, really strong. Like he has strong personality, like he wants to challenge you. So if you went positive discipline all the way with him, it will be bad. Like you will not get anything done. You'll just get yourself frustrated. So I read another book. So he's really strong, right? So you have to search and find this book about limits. And I keep adding to that. It's just not one thing or the other. And every kid is different. And you have to test it. Like if you have an obedient kid and you start putting limits to him, you're gonna be limiting that kid. But if you have a strong kid and you're limiting him a little bit and not too much, you don't, if you limit him a lot, you actually will kill this leadership trait that he had or she has. So you have to find that balance and know your kid and think about what you read. Don't take things for granted as like, oh, I read that about positive discipline, so I'm just following. No, we don't do that in anything in our life. Like you have to read and try to think and see how much is it applicable to you. And I'm still learning, and there are like, and again, as you said, like I do things wrong. Yes, I do. That's the side of discipline. Wise on like raising him up. Like I got 2 new books that I didn't start yet, but that's for the discipline wise. About like again about like culture. It's not just me. I talked to my friends here who came from like similar background, or even like people here like with different perspective. Like even Americans themselves, they're like, oh, like this is, I know some of my colleagues, they homeschool their children, like they're American colleagues, they homeschool their children because they don't like the public system that much. So it's again bringing in, we always have this conversation that like, oh, you want to expose them to the culture, but at the same time they're like concerns maybe because of Arabic or because of religion or like because of even your own values. You don't have to be Muslim like to agree or disagree with some values in the, and it's again, and we would not know the conclusion until they grow up and they turn out fine, and then we can say, oh, okay, that wasn't that much bad. And I guarantee you, we will do mistakes. Everyone going this direction, this direction. So as you said, like either people send their kids to public school and they put them on Sunday school where they learn Arabic and Islamic studies, or they do vice versa, put them in Islamic school, but then send them to practice where they get this exposure and make sure they have diverse friends, because you don't want to bubble them and it's like, oh, this is all what you get and that's life. No, because this is not life. You want them to be able to actually know how to be in the culture they are in right now. So again, I mean, you think about it, you measure your values and what you think would be best, and you try, and hopefully
Yeah,
it
we're
works
all
out.
trying. Yeah, we're all trying.
Yeah.
It's a plant that you're planting, and you cannot really ever control all the factors, the
Yeah,
environment, the
true.
culture. Like it's changing everything around it, and it's really crazy to think that you can control it all. You wish for a lot of you know. So you do your
Yeah.
best, and then you leave it for the universe powers to make sure
Yeah.
it grows correctly. So Mona, you traveled after our graduation, shortly after, probably like I did, to the US as a woman alone. How is the safety? How is it for a woman from the Arab world for me to travel alone to the US? Did you feel safe? Did you trust yourself? To feel to be confident to move between the states? Is there something specific that you would advise a woman thinking now to move to the US? Something to warn her, something to recommend her, and yeah, and also at the workplace, how is it for the woman in the US community, observed as a, I don't know, like moving from the Arab world to work in an American culture? How is that for you? How was your experience?
So safety wise, I think I didn't have problems safety wise. I was wearing hijab when I came here, but makes things harder with work a little bit sometimes, especially I work in construction. It's a male dominant. So it's not only that I'm Arab, it's not a woman trade. So it's a little bit of resistance here and there, but it's like you work with this company and they are great about that, and but then you don't work just with your company. You're a contractor, you work with other people, and there are some stuff, nothing basically to warn. Maybe the piece of advice is know your values, stick to it, be strong about your limits, and be confident. Those are things that I might have lacked at certain points in my life that cause problem, like this confidence or like this standing my grounds and set some limits was something that I wish someone um, like helped me with a little bit. And also it's not only that, it's just sometimes life is hard, again, as you said, for you being alone. I think away from you being a woman or a man. So when that gets in the way, it's just like you're not thinking clearly, I would say, and life is a little bit harder. I think maybe finding someone you trust support you at that time would be great if you can. If not, try to again refocus on your goal and why you're where you are right at that moment, and do your best. And as you keep saying, don't try to control things out of your control, because you'll never control them. So stay focused, and if something is out of your control, you will never be able to control it. So just let it go. I think that was the question.
Yes, it is. So yeah, I think on a personal level, as you just mentioned, when life gets hard, it's hard to control your emotions. It's hard to control your reflection, especially when you don't really have your safe space around you and your foundation, I would say. So friends abroad are family. I've been through so many situations where really, if my friends here who are my family here wouldn't have been there, I would have been really, really in a different place. So I also learned here a lot about taking care of myself, being kind to myself, keeping aware that life balance is really important. I cannot really put work only as a main priority. I have to take care of my social being, and I really got to appreciate every like social contact is very important, especially in the times of Corona, like social contact, sports, every little thing that like taking healthy food, every little thing that we took for granted started to make sense and to be important. And you know, here it's very like Gesundheit oder bless you. And then you have this light shed on on everything, you know, like something might not have been that important in Egypt, because at the end of the day you will go home, maybe somebody will take care of you, cook something for you, or somebody would take the the work from off your shoulders. But here you have to be really fit, or you keep your balance, because if you fell sick, if something happened, you have more concerns about how it's going to keep going, because you're here for yourself. And I learned a lot about staying kind to my mental health. So how was your journey on that? Or how, like, in Germany I've read a lot about psychology, and it's a very open topic here, going to therapists, talking to psychiatrists. They're even like in some companies they're taking care of that on a sick leave. That's if I go to my doctor and say I'm under stress at work, I will take a sick leave. So I really appreciate this culture and mindset, because in Egypt, I wouldn't have trusted myself to just go to a doctor and say, okay, I'm under stress at work, I need some break. So yeah, these are things that I learned to accept, because I learned to accept my limitations. Because when we are younger, we take this, I want to change the world, and we push. Sometimes you don't really see your limits, not the limits of everything around you, but your own limits, that you cannot really keep doing this the whole life. And at some point, your body might tell you, "Hey, wait, you're taking me for granted." So, so how was your experience, and how is that in the US? Because especially the US is a bit critical when it comes to work, about the vacations, about the working conditions. Sometimes it's critical of the reputation coming from the US. So how is that for you?
They are big, like my company are big on mental health, so they do a lot of mental health support. We always have those conversations about, especially our trade is a little bit stressful, and they are focusing on that. I know the stereotyping about Americans that they are like workaholic or whatever, but they are focusing more on mental health and how to keep people healthy and stay there, especially with, and we talk about it, like we have those women in trailer circles where we talk about how like the diversity and minority and bias and mental health. Personally, I did the same. I was seeing a therapist through my divorce, and my family are like background is medical field, so they were really supportive. But I know the stereotype in my close circle of friends, even back home, they were like really supportive. But I know the stereotyping. I might not have took the step back home to go see a therapist, honestly, personally, but it helped a lot. It taught me about myself and what I can tolerate, and stop being like a people pleaser, and but how to set limits and how to stand up for yourself while being respectful, calm, and so those stuff, like no is a no. Like keep asking the same question and your answer is no, because that's the limit, and that's it. And then basically, and really calmly and get in there. Again, like we're talking about like self-compassion. I was just listening to this video on like compassion and self-compassion and self-care, and one question was like, okay, how to separate between, okay, I'm doing self-care and slacking or like being too soft, right? So it's a self-compassion, but you have to be accountable too, right? So if I'm really stressed, but there's someone to support my role, then they can be there, or I can finish my work that is depending on me and then like go take my time off. And I'm lucky where I work that they understand that, they support you. I mean, they were there with COVID time, they were there with divorce and everything, so that was good. They understand where you're coming from, and they know, like they saw your work and they know you, so I wouldn't complain about that. Personally, it depends on where you work, honestly, here, but again, like some other companies are not that good about that. Yeah, but that's it. But yeah, I'm really big on it, and I believe that people back home should think about that. I know my close circle are working on those stuff, but not everyone is open to it, and I think we need to do better job on that. Even on a personal level, you don't have to wait on your work to take care of your mental health and read about it and change and grow and expand, and it's like taking care of your physical health and keep on a diet. You need to keep your mind healthy too, I think.
I totally agree. And I think also slowly in Egypt, the thing is the mental health topic is very, very developing.
Popular, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And thankful for the media. I think slowly it's also growing. And then also I wanted to ask you, now that you moved to US and you said, okay, people need to learn about the communication of the different culture and on all that, how would you advise me if I'm moving to the US, where to go? What are the resources that you think would help me moving to the US to get these information? Enhancing my communication skills, knowing more about the American culture, not only through the Hollywood movies. Are there more like welcome centers at the States, social workers? How is it like? Where do we get the information landing to us?
Well, it depends whether you're coming for so work wise. So professional wise, I don't think there are much. Again, I mean, I'm lucky with the company I work with. We have mental health resources, but which talks about communication and progressing and this and that. Schools, they have a system when you come. There's international club and international welcome and orientation day. So it depends what you do. I would say if you're coming just for work, maybe networking, but well, and networking is tricky because you need people with good intentions, but some people don't care, or like I would say like benefit of the doubt, they just don't care, so they will not really direct you. But so it's a process. Not sure if you're refugee, it's different. There are welcome or non-profit organizations that help refugees. My best friend worked for one of those. She's really worked for one of those for like 5 years, and she did all that. Like it's like orientation in a school where she teach them about bus systems. She shows them that and this, but then professional. I would say also if you're coming for work, best resources is your coworkers. Just be open and ask questions. They are willing to help. Americans are so great about that. They willing to share. They're willing to help with advising. They are not. It's different. I mean, and sometimes they will help you, but you need to ask the question. You know, you need to learn how to ask the question and ask it, and don't feel shy. It's expected that you don't know, and you should ask questions or find the community, but finding the right community can be tricky, so be cautious. Or take it from both sides. So ask your friends or like your network outside of work, and ask your coworkers, and get best out of both, I guess.
Yeah, I totally agree. Networking is very tricky abroad. And yeah, and as we were discussing before this recording, you cannot really get to choose. In at home, you have this wide spectrum of people, and then you know the culture, you can understand everything, and you get to choose. But in a different country, these are the people who are most likely to have the same situation as you are. So you got to choose, you got to try with these, and not necessarily you will get along, not necessarily that we
Yeah.
will understand each other. And yeah, as you said, you cannot really stay in the bubble of having the same culture of your own nationality, neither also like going totally on the extreme. So it's a bit tricky everywhere with the social network. I would totally agree. Okay, and yeah, I think you mentioned it already. Like, you don't think in the near future of moving to Egypt because of your kid, that you're trying to think for him for better opportunities. What do you miss most about Egypt? Because yeah, everyone in Egypt may be asking and calling me or you to tell you, okay, I want to move abroad, and everything is greener on the other side. And it's not 100% wrong, it's 100% right. So most
I
about
would
Egypt.
say after like moving a lot as support system. Again, I mean, I have a best friend here. She's family, but she lives in Indiana. That's at least 6 hour travel by airplane, and it's expensive and it's work schedule oriented. So like I miss my support system. Again, that's the biggest thing. Yes, work here is better, life quality is better, but that's a big thing too. Um, so yeah, that's my biggest thing here that I miss, or like I sometimes feel like, oh, I need my friends and close family. And again, as you said, like raising a kid, that they have a saying here, it takes a village. So it would have been better to have family and friends around.
True. Okay, but what you said that you were interested to share your story today. I asked you, and why do you think that you accepted this invitation, or how do you think that we can share more of our experience to benefit somebody else? Because I have this feeling, and every time I talk to someone living abroad, we share the communication and the feeling that we don't really 100% belong to where we're living now. Neither do we belong 100% to the place we came from. Like, I'm not 100%
Yeah,
Egyptian anymore. I'm
true.
not 100% German. I'm somewhere in between. It's a mix. I don't know what to call it. And on a literature term, it's maybe a translocal. I was just talking to one academic friend of mine. She's German and she's living in Egypt,
That's
in
the political
Ethiopia.
term.
Yeah, so like
Political
academically, it's
mix.
called a translocal.
Oh, here
But
they call them confused kids.
so yes, in this.
I am. Last time I went back home, like before, I used to, like when I was at school studying for my master's, I used to go each year. So I wasn't, and it was just like here for 2 years. So it wasn't that bad. With work, I didn't go back home for like a couple of years. And then I went back home for short times, but then COVID happened and I had my kid and everything. So I haven't been going back home. So last time I was in Egypt in December, I felt like a little bit strange. Like it's so the thing is like things were changing. So it got to a point where I was like, oh, what is this? That's too different. Like roads are different. Things are different, and like price wise, where are the things? How, like I forgot how to talk to people. Like, and sometimes I'm speaking in Arabic, but things doesn't come up, and like it comes out like, oh my God, in English. Like it's like I was like, okay, that came out absolutely wrong. I'm not trying to show off or anything, but that happens, and I hear you about that being confused a little bit. Is like I'm not absolutely American, and I'm not absolutely Egyptian anymore, unfortunately. What made me talk to you is like I think I would be hopeful if someone came across that and get a piece of information that would help them. And I'm absolutely, it's an open invitation. If someone think that they found something that they want to talk more about, they feel free to reach out. I'm really absolutely approachable. I don't mind sharing my experience or answer questions if needed for anyone, or help if I can help in any way. Because yeah, again, as I said, like the most thing I miss is the support system. So I hope I can be that for anyone, or like answer a question. And I remember we talked before I came here, and that helped a lot. And I talked to a couple of friends that came to the US, and they were a great support and great resource. And I would talk to friends that would like tell me a piece of advice or a piece of this or a piece of that. So that's why I agreed, is like, maybe if someone has gone through those, probably they need support. So if someone here in Texas or then in the US, or they have a question, just feel free to ask, and I will do my best to answer.
Thank you so much, Yamuna. It's really beautiful, like putting
Thank
out
you.
your yourself and sharing your story and being open for helping others. And I don't agree with feeling, unfortunately, that we neither American or neither Egyptians. And I'm really happy that we belong to the same land at the moment. This virtual land of like without borders. It's like somewhere, some space in between where we belong to in a way or another. And it's very interesting. Like it is not specific place, but it's virtual. And yeah, like also like all the people who had to work remotely in corona times, now it's maybe with the whole changes everywhere in the world, that would be the new state. Yeah, you know. So yeah, it is an interesting feeling, but yeah, it's not, unfortunately. We went through our journey, and we learned a lot through it. And you are a different person, I'm a different person, and as we said earlier, like we would have chosen the same decision, would have made the same decision, and so would I. And yeah, thank you so much for giving me your time, and for being having this open invitation for people to ask you or refer to you. I can't thank you enough, and it was really, I'm really grateful for this heart to heart communication. And thank you for pointing out this very important point, because I've been talking about it, but this word communication and putting it into words. And yeah, we speak, but we have differences, and we don't see it. And also from my last interview, it's very important not to take it personally and to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get the answer. And in our culture in Egypt, we are used to like people with sense, and they have to come without me being asking for it. So please, anyone moving to any country abroad, be aware that outside of Egypt, they don't have the same culture. If you don't really ask, you don't get the answer, and it's not normal. Don't expect it, and keep your expectations and stay disappointed. Just speak it up. Um, yeah. Is there some point or something else that you have still at your heart that you'd like to share, or?
No, but thank you. Thank you for doing that effort. I think it's a great idea, and I love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Emona. I hope
Welcome.
you have an awesome day, and hope to see you soon somewhere in the world.
Yeah, same here. You too.
And
Same your way. See you. Bye.
see you.